Okay, welcome to 12 AP Literature and Composition. I'm Mr. White, and of course, had to try to make a little funny. If a tree falls in the forest and nobody is there to hear it, does it make a sound? Who cares? What does the tree stand for? What does the forest represent, and can you explain it in a 5 paragraph essay in under 40 minutes? Because that's a really hard goal, right? Okay, general information. Google Classroom, home for turning in assignments and digital interaction. You'll find all the stuff there. And all kinds of topics pop up as the class develops. The topics are the top points where everything is underneath them. So right now it's kind of sparse, but eventually it grows. Gmail. Here's how to get a hold of me. Best way is through Gmail. It's a first come, first serve, and I get a queue, and I use it like a queue to figure out who gets what. So Gmail works really well. Aries is where all grades are entered, and turnitin.com is where any literature-based essays will be turned in. The course syllabus is in Google Classroom. There's a specific topic right there that has it in it. And there's also another topic for the Zoom link for absent students available in Google Classroom. The form of the exam. Why do you torture me so? Well, I guess in college they figure that if you're not going to take English in college and you've taken all these AP classes, then you need to know a few things. So they actually kind of formulate the exam in a certain way, and they know everybody's going to design their classes so that the kids can get those credits and they can pass that exam. So when you do that, you make sure that they hit all the basics that they are after in college. So why do you torture me so? Because that's exactly the way they set it all up. The open free response essay. So the open free response essay it's got a couple of things it's testing. One of the things is how well read are you? If you've read lots of classic literature, and a lot of people in the snow states, they have nothing better to do, and they would read lots. So did they have a variety of classics under their belts? And that goes to number two. Have you read deeply enough of the classics to apply, and can you apply the knowledge? So if you know them well enough so that you can apply something, not just that you blew through them, but can you do something? Do you know them well enough to talk about them? So we're going to use Hamlet in order to do a breakdown of what that's like, assuming that the students, I'm going to teach it, and then they're going to use the information in order to attack a AP-like question at the end in an essay. We're also going to do some multiple choice tests along the way, but we'll talk about that in a moment. And there's also a project. But there is something rotten in the state of Denmark is the famous quote about Hamlet, and there's also the to be or not to be speech in there, and it's just really an amazing piece from possibly the greatest writer. His greatest work would be, some people would claim that. It's exceptionally deep. The symbolic meanings and life lessons and themes are just everywhere, and you can just go on and on about all the things that you can prove and all the things that you can show with all the great quotes. The writing style that you read lends itself to creative reading, because you got to try to figure out what it means anyway, and it opens up your mind to the possibility of interpretation, of interpreting things many different ways. There are going to be 5 multiple choice tests, one on each act. There's going to be a mini multimedia project at the end there we'll work on. And there's going to be the essay, Name Your Poison, the cup or the sword. And I've already mentioned this in class, but the cup of fate, where you look to see about fate themes throughout, or the sword, which is the character flaw paper, to say that the character flaw has proved it. But there will be a lot of specifics on that coming up. That's Hamlet. The poetry essay, can you analyze a poem in a short period of time and write a coherent essay about your feelings? That's kind of the way that one's going to go. This one, poetry One work just won't do. We're going to have a lot of different, well, here, I'll just read it. Poetry has a lot of different literary devices, poetic devices. We read enough poetry to experiment with writing essays that show how the author uses the device to create meaning for each of the different devices. Some of these poems can work with multiple devices, and others are the best representation of one. Like, you can't find very many that are a good representation of this device, many pieces, but this one is a good one. So always look for the patterns. This is a riddle, and you're supposed to try to figure it out. It's a puzzle. That's what you have to look at all AP things as, is a constant puzzle, a constant riddle, a constant look for deeper meaning, a constant look for figuring out what's going on underneath. Read creatively. Become part of the creative process. If you can create some meaning there without too much of a jump, then that's really a important part of it. But you can't completely fabricate it. You've got to be pretty legit with your basic arguments. Read it many times would be a good suggestion until things start to pop out if you're having difficulties. And take notes and even write while you read if you're having a hard time getting that poem to get to that next level where you can see some of the deeper meanings that it's teaching that are not surfaced. Some of these things that we need to get to in AP English. The prose essay, can you apply your knowledge of the author's use of literary devices to prove a subtle theme in a coherent essay in a short amount of time? So literary devices as opposed to poetry devices, setting, tone, point of view, etc. We're going to use short stories to cover the basics here. There's a variety of different works that I use, each one lining up, and sometimes there's one I could have a choice of 2 or 3, and I'm not sure which one I'll go with, but we've got quite a few that we can pick from. There's a variety of writing styles in there, which is important because we have to get used to working with different writing styles, because we might be given a piece that we're not used to, and if we don't. And show how the literary device is used to subtly prove a deeper meaning is almost always the goal. The vocabulary and reading multiple choice tests. So this thing has been modified, I should say. I'm going to say that first, even though it's over here. The updated test has vocabulary embedded in the question, but it's not a focal point of the question. It's embedded. You have to know it, and you have in order to go find it. But they're more honest to the reading. It's really more honest. They're changing the name of it to what it is. It's more of a reading multiple choices. See how fast you can read and how high is your retention of questions and what material you have read one time through. Because what they're doing is they're trying to give you too many things to do, waste your time so you run out of time on these types of sections. With the vocabulary is embedded in there, and I've got to find out more because, as I've said, they have updated the class, and I'm still finding out more about that throughout the year. We have to get through Hamlet, we know that, so we're going as right on schedule, and I've got some more stuff to do, so we're going to keep updating as we go. Can you multitask while reading? It would be one way to look at it. Looking at questions, thinking about the questions, holding the questions in your mind while you're looking for the answers, while you're reading it through the first time. You don't want to have to read it and then go back and reread it. They'll waste your time, and then you'll be in trouble. The standard college essays, so form, function, quoting, paragraphing, paraphrasing, summarizing, research, all of that sort of stuff, all the stuff in the college essay. We want to get everything looking like the correct, exact, the way that everybody else is writing when they're in college, so that they can just slide right in and go, okay, I'm doing good, and they're not getting any major docs for you don't know how to write. You got to quote things, and you can't just write your opinion, and they're not getting those kinds of comments on their papers because they're already doing it correctly. So that's really the focus of this one, and usually we're pretty good with that. Obtaining a career today, I don't know how big of a piece this is going to be this year, but there is some digital citizenship going on in here, and since we are seniors, we're looking at how employers find employees in the modern marketplace because things have changed tremendously, and because of the way that employers are going to go looking for their candidates, we have to consider useful social media. Along the way, we'll be figuring out things like digital citizenship, but most of it is like how not to get conned, how not to get scammed, and don't trust people, because most of that is defensive. We've had some really wild student success in the past because we got some crazily talented people that go through Santa Susana. So sometimes great things happen, but that's just a side. As a project, it's anonymous. It's a safe environment. You're not supposed to use your names at all. It's in the rules. You are not supposed to use your names. So it's and people who don't want to be working on social media can also actually join a group and not actually work with social media in order to do the project. That's the beauty of it, because you can even bypass it and still be a total part of it and be a huge part of it actually, and be very, very effective. Because it's not all about somebody who is sitting there and typing in words on an account. Sometimes it's about making the perfect film or the perfect picture or the perfect etc. etc. Anyway, there's a lot of networking involved. Students go really far with that, and they get a lot of really great contacts and leg ups. It's process but not product focus. Introduction to personal marketing and media, and you want to just keep it light. We're talking about meaning things like what not to put out there, and basically putting out the correct view of yourself. That kind of a thing. It's a very simple thing. Prepare and practice today so college branding is easy. Social media is useful. It's actually been very useful. It's surprising how many people have actually gotten careers and got into jobs and higher levels just using the stuff that we cover in this. Anyway, that's a little bit about what's going to be going on there. If you have any questions, of course, you know that back here we've got the contact information on. There we go. There's that contact information. All right. All right. Well, thank you very much, guys, and I hope you have a good evening.